Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the anatomy of energy debt. We're going to take a look at exactly what happens inside your body when you try to push your training to the absolute limit while eating dangerously little. It's a journey that takes us deep into your metabolism, your hormonal pathways, and literally down to your DNA to understand the true hidden cost of energy restriction.
So what actually happens when you run on empty? There's this super persistent myth out there in the fitness world that lighter is always faster. But we are going to completely shatter that today, because when you're running on empty, you aren't just magically burning fat, you're paying a massive physiological cost. We're going to show you exactly how starving your body means you're ultimately just starving your progress, your recovery, and your long-term health.
Part 1. The Energy Debt Trap. Think of your body's energy a lot like a strict financial budget. When you're spending way more than you're bringing in, you go into debt. And to survive that debt, your body relies on something called metabolic adaptation. Now, this isn't your body failing you, right? It's actually a highly evolved survival mechanism. It's pulling the emergency brake because it literally thinks you are facing a famine, so it deliberately slows down your resting metabolism and tweaks your hormones to conserve whatever fuel you have left.
And looking at the academic literature, we see this survival mechanism in action. Even elite bodybuilders, we're talking about people who meticulously track every single macronutrient and train with absolute precision, experience a profound downregulation of their metabolic rate and their thermoregulation during weeks of strict prep. The takeaway here, if it happens to the elite, it is absolutely happening to you when your calories drop too low for too long. Moving down to the muscular level, we hit Part 2, muscle breakdown and fatigue. Imagine your muscles as a really busy construction site. You're constantly balancing muscle protein synthesis against muscle protein breakdown. You might be eating enough protein, providing the bricks for the site, but if you don't have the overall energy, calories, to actually pay the construction workers, the crucial mTORC1 signaling pathway just shuts off. Construction halts. And worse, to find fuel, your body starts tearing down the existing walls, your own hard-earned muscle tissue, just to survive the deficit.
But it's not just about losing muscle mass. With your carbohydrate stores totally wiped out, your central nervous system actually steps in as a protective measure. It actively reduces the neural drive to your muscles. This is basically your brain cutting the power. It kills your coordination, it delays your reaction times, and it makes standard weights that you'd normally throw around with ease feel impossibly heavy. Which brings us to Part 3, the hormonal survival response. This is where things get really wild. When energy is scarce, your endocrine system basically goes into full panic mode. Notice how leptin falls to conserve energy, which tells your brain you're starving, while ghrelin spikes to drive up your cravings. At the exact same time, rising cortisol levels trigger this massive systemic alarm bell. That stress response suppresses crucial metabolic drivers like your T3 thyroid hormone and absolutely tanks your reproductive hormones, meaning testosterone and estrogen drop significantly. Your body is just shutting down anything that isn't strictly required to keep you alive today.
Traveling up to the brain, we reach Part 4, brain fog and burnout. Your brain alone demands about 20% of your body's total energy every single day. So when you restrict that fuel, your sleep architecture gets completely hijacked. You're robbed of the deep, slow-wave sleep that you desperately need for growth hormone release. Meanwhile, your heart rate variability plummets, which means your rest and digest system is suppressed, locking you into chronic fight-or-flight stress. You end up with brain fog, terrible concentration, and you're probably just super irritable. You're completely burnt out.
Part 5. The Danger of Red S.
When this energy debt drags on and becomes systemic, we cross into some really dangerous clinical territory. REDS, or Relative Energy Deficiency in Sport, is a severe syndrome where low energy availability impairs your physiological function, your athletic performance, and your long-term health across multiple organ systems. This actually replaces the outdated term female athlete triad, because REDS recognizes that this kind of severe energy deficiency causes systemic collapse in both male and female athletes alike. It's a total body crisis. So you absolutely have to watch for these massive physiological red flags. We're talking about recurrent stress fractures because your bone density is failing, absent menstrual cycles, decreased sperm count and low testosterone in men, and a completely crashed immune system that leads to frequent illnesses and lingering GI issues. If you are seeing these signs, your body is literally screaming for fuel. Finally, Part 6, fueling for recovery. So how do we fix this and restore your metabolic floor? According to clinical guidance, if you want to lose fat, a moderate daily deficit of roughly 500 to 600 kilocalories, which usually sits around 15 to 20% below your maintenance level, is the absolute gold standard. This precise window is the sweet spot. It allows you to lose fat effectively without triggering those severe protective starvation protocols we just broke down.
To protect your health, you have to pace your recovery. First, stick strictly to that moderate 15 to 20% deficit. Second, keep your protein high, aiming for 1.6 to 2.2 grams per kilogram of body weight to force muscle synthesis. Third, use strategic 1 to 2 week diet breaks where you eat at maintenance, just to tell your hormones, hey, we're safe, there's no famine. And finally, be willing to reduce your training load and seek professional medical support if you are really struggling to bounce back. At the end of the day, fueling is faster. So I want you to take a hard look at your own training budget and ask yourself this: are you truly eating enough to support the athlete you want to become? Don't let an energy debt bankrupt your potential. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope it gave you some vital insights into your training nutrition, and I'll see you next time.